While the Bears may feel confident about Andy Dalton right now, there might be some concerns when the season actually begins. Over the last two regular seasons, Dalton has heavily struggled under pressure, ranking 33rd or worse in QBR, interception rate, and sack rate. That won't be an issue if Chicago's offensive line can give him protection, but that wasn't the case this preseason, as Dalton was pressured on 35% of his small sample size of dropbacks. So, Key, we'll start with you. A lot of the public may not be so confident, but how confident are you in Andy Dalton as the Bears' starting quarterback?
I think I'm confident for a short sample size. If I'm a veteran player in a locker room, I certainly have the ability to understand what Andy Dalton could bring to the table for us. Okay, he doesn't have to be the long-term answer. We've seen in this league guys like Andy Dalton have a short rebirth within their careers. You run the football, you play defense, and you allow him not to make the mistakes. You don't put him in a position to turn the football over. Yes, people are suspect about the offensive line, but let me take you a little bit inside of an offensive line room. Protection schemes in the preseason mean absolutely nothing. They can correct those things in the regular season. It's not the physicality of the players, in my opinion. It's the scheme. When you're trying to figure out things in the preseason, you kind of play with things until you get to the regular season. Much like Pace said, he understands what the regular season is all about. We'll see. I'll discount last year with the Dallas Cowboys. I won't hold him to all of those bad mistakes that they made.
Listen, man, y'all all know how I feel about the decision. I think Justin Fields should start. But since we passed that and we're talking about Andy Dalton with the Chicago Bears, I see week 4 being a potential spot when Justin Fields takes over, and that's against the Detroit Lions, and we'll have enough of a sample size of Andy Dalton. I don't know about, like, this whole resurgence of Andy Dalton, by the way. He got kicked out of Cincinnati. But I guess, look, I guess I watch football different. Anyway, let's get to the point. The point is, when you look at the Chicago Bears football team, which was a playoff team last year with not really good quarterback play, and if the ideology is we gonna protect Justin Fields because our offensive line is bad, I've heard that thrown around. I don't know why you would not have an athletic guy behind an offensive line if you're trying to win, but that's a whole nother conversation for another day. But if Andy Dalton can do anything better than he's done in the last 2 or 3 years, not just talking about when he was in Dallas, then Chicago may go 2-2, or they may be, I don't even see 3-1. I'm gonna just be honest with y'all. Eventually, week 4, when they go up and play the Detroit Lions, I think that's when we'll see Justin Fields. Look, I'm not here to kill Andy Dalton. I'm not here to say Andy Dalton can have a good 1 or 2 weeks in the NFL. But I'm not just on last year alone with Andy Dalton in Dallas. I want to remind everybody that Andy Dalton was the Cincinnati Bengals franchise quarterback, and they got rid of him. And you don't get rid of franchise guys that can play at a playoff level to bet on something else when he's already in the building. So it's more for me than just what he did in Dallas. That was a bad situation. That would have been a bad situation for any quarterback. And this is going to be a bad situation for Andy Dalton eventually when they got to pull him and put Justin Fields in and try to win some damn games.
The prevailing thought is it's a matter of when, not if Justin Fields becomes a starter. But I want to introduce Mel Kiper Jr. into this conversation, who leading up to the draft, you were all in on Justin Fields right behind Trevor Lawrence. Mel, specific to the Chicago situation, how ready is Justin Fields to be a starter maybe as soon as the first couple of weeks of the season?
I think their plan's great. I think letting him sit and do what Patrick Mahomes did and redshirt for that first year and let Alex Smith go out there and have success and get him to the playoffs, it worked fine, right? Here, the plan is to do the same thing. Andy Dalton goes out, you win, you get to the playoffs, and Justin Fields watches. But those the best laid plans. This team's not prepared for that. Their offensive line is a big issue. Andy Dalton's always needed a lot of talent around him. He's not a quarterback who can win games. He needs everything around him to be working. That happened in Cincinnati those first 5 years when he had success. When the personnel base declined, his performance declined. Okay? So you have a situation with the Cincinnati Bengals coming in there, right, in week 2. Detroit Lions in week 4, as Marcus said. There's some pivotal spots there where you better win. You got to be no worse than 2-3, maybe 3-2, but probably more 2-3. Then you got the Packers to be 2-4. At some point, because of the problems they have on the offensive side of the ball, they're not winning enough games. They're going to have to go to Fields. I don't think he's ready. I think he talked about the preseason. It's slower. Now that's preseason against a lot of guys who aren't in the NFL right now. Okay, now you get the real deal. That was the fresh, soft JV. Now you're getting the varsity. So I would say get ready for a lot of issues. But I think it's unfortunately the best laid plans are going awry, and Fields is going to be in there when their plan is probably not to have him out there.
So here's always my issue with the whole Patrick Mahomes and Alex Smith thing, because this infrastructure is nothing like it was in Kansas City. All right, the Kansas City was already on a trending up direction, and Alex Smith was the first overall pick who had success, who had been a Pro Bowler and won 11 games during that season. So yeah, that time was available to not see what Patrick Mahomes had. That time was available because you had a lot of faith in the structure there in Kansas City. This is not the same situation. And look, I've been on enough shows arguing about if Justin Fields should start, if he should start week 1. Yeah, I get it. I understand. I'm week 1 Justin Fields. Ain't nothing changed in my mind about that. He's not going to be out there week 1, so fine. But the bottom line is this, man. The better football player at quarterback for the Chicago Bears that gives them the best chance to win is Justin Fields. And how do we absolve Matt Nagy of the responsibility of having Justin Fields ready when he knows that his talent lends itself to them being a better football team right off the bat? But y'all go with that and let Andy Dalton go out there and have this resurgence of what he's supposed to do for the Chicago Bears.
A couple games ain't going to hurt him. A couple games ain't going to hurt him. Let's see what Andy Dalton can do for a couple games. I'm with you. The best player is Justin Fields. But let's just see what Andy Dalton can do.
And, of course, that first game, by the way, against the Los Angeles Rams in primetime in Los Angeles.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.